Hello, this video is going to be about the difference between the Lord of the Rings The Fellowship of the Ring movie and the Lord of the Rings The Fellowship of the Ring book. The first difference happens right in the beginning of both the movie and the book. In the movie, there was the rundown of the history of Middle-earth by Galadriel, and then there was the big battle that happened after with Isildur, Elrond, Sauron, and all that. This does not happen in the book. In the book, the beginning is about the history of hobbits, how they were from one part of Middle-earth and then they migrated to another part of Middle-earth where the Shire is now, and it goes on about them for quite a bit of time actually. It talks about how some of them are fairer in skin than others. It talks about the different families of the hobbits. It talks about how they have like their own little kind of police force. Also, the hobbits are not as isolated as it may have seemed in the movie, where they're kind of like their own people. They don't know about anything else about the rest of the world. They did actually regularly interact with other individuals. I was actually expecting like a big battle to happen in the beginning because J.R.R. Tolkien was a veteran of World War One. So I actually thought, because I watched the movie first, obviously, I thought there was gonna be like a big battle there because of his World War One experience, that he was gonna make like a very big battle scene, but that didn't happen at all. And instead, just went on and on and on about hobbits, and this is kind of a big difference because the book is more of like a story. Let's say like the history of England, or the story of England. It's not the history of England, but let's say it was. It's more like just explain to you what happened in the history, whereas the movie, it's more like action packed. I remember when I even watched the movie, some people were complaining that it was like 3 hours long. It was a really long time, and I really liked the movie. I really enjoyed it, but I do understand how people who aren't interested in this kind of stuff obviously can't just sit through with no action. So, like in the book, for example, there's even like a scene when Frodo was actually going to go on his adventure. He actually sold his house before he went on the adventure, and there was like a whole scene about how he was selling his house. It was like open house. People were like walking in, buying things, this and that, and it went on and on and on. So yeah, that's the first difference. Moving on. The second difference I want to talk about happened during Bilbo's birthday party. So in the movie, Merry and Pippin, who are essentially brain dead, were playing with one of the fireworks. Firstly, they lit it underneath a tent, which makes no sense, and then they were like fighting over it, being like, you do it, you do it, you do it, you do it, kind of thing. So this didn't actually happen in the book at all. In the book, Merry and Pippin were not brain dead. They were actually kind of smart. They even knew that Bilbo had the ring before Gandalf or even Frodo. And it's because Bilbo was like always using the ring for like no reason. Like one time he was walking down the street and there were people coming towards him and he didn't like them, and then he just put the ring on just so that he wouldn't have to talk to them. And Merry and Pippin actually saw this, and they knew that he had the ring. But anyways, during the birthday, that firework that was launched, but it was actually launched by Gandalf. It was not launched by Merry and Pippin. So Frodo was actually much older in the book than he was in the movie. In the movie, I think the actor was in his 20s or something like that. He looked actually very young. But in the book, Frodo was actually around 50 years old when he went on the adventure. However, because he had the ring, he would have looked younger than he would have been naturally. There was also about 17-year difference between the time Frodo got the ring from Bilbo and started his adventure. In the movie, it kind of seemed like it was pretty soon after he just started going on it. The initial idea in the movie was that Frodo was supposed to meet Gandalf at the Prancing Pony at Bree. This was not the case in the book. In the book, Gandalf was going to come back, get Frodo, and then they were supposed to walk to Rivendell. Now, in the movie, Gandalf was not able to come back, or not able to meet them at the Prancing Pony, because he was held up by Saruman. However, in the book, you don't actually know what happened to Gandalf. it wasn't actually explained. You only know what happened to Gandalf at the Council of Elrond, where it is explained by Gandalf what happened. Now, in the movie, there was a fight scene between Gandalf and Saruman. They were both using their staffs and kind of throwing each other around, kind of thing. This didn't happen in the book at all. In the book, pretty much Gandalf showed up. Saruman said, "Are you going to join me?" Gandalf said no. And then Saruman said, "You're under arrest." And that was the end of that. The next difference I want to talk about is something a little bit nasty that Peter Jackson did, and that is to Farmer Maggot. So during the movie, there was a scene where Merry and Pippin has stolen vegetables from this farmer. That farmer is actually Farmer Maggot, who has dogs and stuff like that too, and they were like barking or whatever in the movie, so it probably is Farmer Maggot. So Merry and Pippin stole the guy's vegetables, and they were like running away, just being stereotypically stupid as they are throughout the movie. This didn't happen in the book at all. But Farmer Maggot was actually a good guy. So at this point, the Ringwraiths were kind of chasing the hobbits, and the hobbits actually came to this farmer's house. And the farmer actually let them in. He gave them supper or whatever, gave them food, this and that. He even then gave them a ride to the river where they were going to. And even after the Ringwraiths actually showed up to Maggot, and they had asked him information about the hobbits, and they were even going to offer him gold. Farmer Maggot refused to give them any information and told the Ringwraiths to get off his property or he would unleash his dogs on them. So, yeah, this is a very nasty thing. I don't know why they made him seem like a crazy farmer guy. He was actually a very good guy, and he actually stood up for his fellow hobbits. I mean, like, it really shows you how these hobbits are kind of like tight-knit group. I really like how, no one like kind of like, ratted out the other hobbits. Like in the movie, there was like a scene where one of the Ringwraiths shows up and asks information, and one of the hobbits was so scared. He's like, "Oh, it's that way. Go that way," or something like that. But that didn't happen. None of the hobbits gave any information to the Ringwraiths, as far as I know, or as far as I remember, in the book about them at all. So yeah, moving on. One of the characters that is in the book but is not in the movie is a character called Tom Bombadil. I'm not exactly sure what he is exactly. He seems to have some kind of magical powers. I don't think he's like a wizard or anything, although I'm not exactly sure. He lives in the old forest, and the hobbits kind of went through that area even though they were told not to go through that forest. It's a dangerous forest. The trees are like alive kind of thing. They're not ents, anything like that. But what happens is that when the hobbits were going through it, the trees would sometimes like grab you, and they're like trying to like suck you into the tree. And the hobbits all were having issues in that area. I think they were all like seeing things, this and that, and Tom Bombadil actually saved them. And it was actually Tom Bombadil that told the hobbits to go to Bree, to the Prancing Pony, because he knew the owner. So this is another big difference with the movie. In the movie, it was Gandalf that told Frodo and whatever to go to the Prancing Pony, but that was, as I said, not the case. It was Tom Bombadil that told them to go there. And Tom Bombadil, like, he doesn't do anything else really in the book. He stays in his forest. I don't think he actually leaves his forest. He's there with his wife, and he sings a lot, kind of thing. At the Prancing Pony, when the hobbits get there at Bree, there isn't a lot of differences between the movie and the book. However, one of the things that is mentioned in the book that is not in the movie is that Aragorn and Gandalf actually know each other. So they had actually gone on missions together. I believe they went on a mission to capture Gollum, and they weren't able to find him or weren't able to catch him, whatever the case was with that. However, also in the book, Gandalf even knew the owner of the Prancing Pony as well, and apparently he had sent a letter to that guy, telling him to send that letter to Frodo, telling them that they should trust Aragorn or something if something was to happen to him. That guy was not able to do it because he was busy or whatever the case was. But anyways, then the hobbits met up with Aragorn, and everything was kind of similar from there out. The other difference I do want to talk about actually is later on when Frodo actually got stabbed at Mount Weathertop. And the only difference really there is that it was not Arwen that saved them. It was actually a guy called Glorfindel. I believe he's like the number 2 or something at Rivendell. So Arwen is actually a very, very minor character in the book. There's hardly any scenes with her at all. They made her more important in the movie than she really is. So now that we are at the Council of Elrond, there are a bunch of differences here between the movie and the book. Firstly, in the book, Bilbo was actually invited to the council. And it started essentially with Elrond explaining kind of like the history of the ring. So this is the part where, like, in the beginning of the movie, there was that big battle, and Elrond actually explains it now what happened. And then Bilbo kind of explains about how he came in contact with the ring, and he explains his story. And then after that, I think Gandalf explained what happened with Saruman at this point, and then Frodo explains his part of how he brought the ring until here. Um, the other thing is that Gimli did not try to actually destroy the ring. So there was this very awkward scene, I think, in the movie where, like, Gimli just kind of gets up with his axe and tries to, like, smash the thing, as if, Elrond didn't know you could just, do that yourself. So Gimli is actually a bit of an idiot in the movie. Like, the guy, like, what he did there did not make any sense at all. Why is Elrond calling this whole council from everybody if all you have to do is destroy the ring? You can't just do it yourself. Anyways, the other part that didn't happen too was like when Elrond was saying someone has to take the ring to Mordor, Bilbo actually got up and said he will do it, and everyone kind of told him to sit down, kind of thing. After that, Frodo said he would do it, and in the movie there was like this kind of a pretty cool scene where everyone's like, you got my sword, you got my axe, you got this and that. That didn't actually happen at all. The only person that actually said I'm going with you was Sam, who was there, and he was like illegally at the council. He wasn't supposed to be there. He just kind of got up and said, I'm going to go with you. The other people did not say that, and actually kind of makes sense. Why would they tell you they're going to go with you that day? Like, this is a very dangerous mission. They probably have to talk to their friends, family, whatever the case is, talk to their own people before they say they're going to go with you. Also, Merry and Pippin were not actually eavesdropping on the conversation like how they were in the movie. So again, in the movie, they're being a bit stupid again. They're like illegally there, listen to the conversation. They weren't actually there. And funny enough, Merry and Pippin actually were angry after that Sam was illegally there, and they thought he should be punished because he was illegally at the council, whereas Merry and Pippin were not illegally there. And even actually, funny enough, when the council ended, in the movie, there was that kind of a stupid thing where Pippin is like, "Oh, so where are we going?" And yeah, that, like, obviously that didn't happen, but it just shows how idiotic Pippin is actually in the movie. Like, buddy, you're listening to the conversation. The whole conversation is about how you have to get rid of the ring, and he missed that whole part. So what was the point of him even listening? And then they brought him, they brought Pippin anyway with them on the adventure. It's actually one of the things that doesn't make sense in the movie at all. Why would you bring Pippin with you? He has no skills whatsoever that can help you out. Anyways, after the council was done in the book, a few days later, a lot of the other members started to join in. So at this point, Gandalf said he's going to go. Aragorn said he was going to go, this and that. They kind of put the whole team together. Now, the one individual that is a bit, like, I didn't really get if he's really part of the Fellowship or not, is actually Boromir. So it seemed as if in the book, Boromir was actually going to go back on his way to Minas Tirith, and he was going to tag along with the Fellowship while he was going, because it's kind of going in the same direction. So it's a bit unclear if Boromir was an official member of the Fellowship or not. And it seemed as if, like, what I'm thinking here is that he just wanted to come to take that ring. So he kind of tagged along with them, probably so that he can take the ring at some point, or maybe get the team to go with them to Minas Tirith where they could take the ring. There are also some other facts I just want to mention quickly. One of them is that Sauron was never an eyeball, as it is in the movie. I'm not sure how that even actually makes any sense in the movie because like when he got killed or when he got attacked, did he like randomly turn into like some kind of eyeball, and then like the orcs had to like hoist him up to like Barad-dûr, which makes no sense. In the book, Sauron is mentioned a lot, but he doesn't have any talking scenes, anything like that. I think that he's probably just doing like CEO kind of work, probably having like meetings, payroll, whatever he's doing in Mordor. But he is not an eyeball. The second difference also I want to talk about is that there's a lot of singing in the book. Characters will just randomly start singing, and this I think is actually a British thing, and this is because like J.R.R. Tolkien was obviously a British guy. Uh, in in uh, in England, for example, if any of you watch the Premier League, I do. I watch Chelsea sometimes. It's my favorite team. A lot of the English fans will actually start randomly singing. Well, not randomly, like they do sing. That's their thing. Like the fans will start singing during a game. So it's a really a kind of a British thing to sing. Whereas, for example, in North America, if you watch like the NBA or whatever, people are just like defense, 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 which is a little bit lame actually. But in England, during the games, the fans will actually start to sing. So you'll notice in the book there's lots of singing, and sometimes one person will start singing, and then another guy will kind of join in this singing. It will almost be like this duet. So lots of singing. So now that the Fellowship has begun its adventure, there are a bunch of differences that happen right in the beginning of it. So firstly, when they were going over the mountains, in the movie, it was Gandalf's idea to go over the mountains, and it was Gimli's idea to go to the mines of Moria. This is all over the place between the movie and the book. So in the book, it was actually Aragorn's idea to go over the mountains, and it was Gandalf's idea to go to the mines of Moria, not Gimli's. So in the movie, Gimli is kind of an idiot again because like this guy hasn't talked to his cousin who knows how long, and he thinks he's gonna get like a nice feast when he gets there, and everyone's been dead there for a very long time. In the book, Gimli actually knew there was problems there, and as a matter of fact, in Rivendell, Bilbo talked to Gloin, and it was asking about his former friends, and he told them, yeah, they've lost contact with them for a long time. They had gone to Moria. I think they were like looking for like a ring or something like that, and no one had heard from them for a while. So Gimli knew that there was problems in Moria. However, he was kind of happy to go anyway because he wanted to know what happened to them, this and that. But there were issues that happened there. So he wasn't expecting any kind of a feast, anything like that. This was like a huge plot hole in the movie. So, anyways, when they were going towards Moria, they were actually being chased by wargs, and there was like a few fight scenes that ended up happening. And finally, when the Fellowship got to Moria, there was that kind of infamous scene where Merry and Pippin again are being stupid, and they're throwing like rocks into the water, and then that Squidward thing attacked everybody. That thing actually did attack everybody in the book, but it was not Merry and Pippin that threw the rock in the water. It was actually Boromir. Boromir the idiot threw the rock in the water, and that thing attacked. And funny enough, when Boromir actually threw the thing in the water, it was actually Frodo that told Boromir, do not disturb the water. But anyways, in the book, they kind of had no choice but to go into Moria because they couldn't go over the mountains, and they were being chased by wargs, so they kind of had to find a place of refuge to get away from all that. Whereas in the movie, like they didn't really have to go through there. They could have kind of backtracked after they get down from the mountain. They didn't have to go through Moria. They didn't have to go even through the Gap of Rohan, which brings them close to Isengard. They could have kind of backtracked and gone the long way around. So it's kind of like a plot hole there where you're choosing like very dangerous routes for no reason. But in the book, they kind of had no choice but to go. They didn't want to really go through Moria. They just kind of had no choice but to go through there. But anyways, when they were in Moria, there's not a lot of differences. There's a lot less fighting than there was in the movie. I believe instead of one troll, there was actually two trolls that came, and I don't know if they actually killed them. I don't remember reading if they actually killed them. I think they were kind of like falling back, and they were like getting away from the fighting. I don't remember like a big fight scene where they killed the trolls. Although I could be wrong. Maybe they did kill it, but I don't remember them killing the trolls. But I remember there were two trolls though that attacked them. There was not one. There was two. Moving on. So when the Fellowship reached Lothlorien, where the Wood Elves are, there's only one real major difference, and that was unfortunately Gimli's treatment when he got there. So in the book, the elves initially were gonna deny Gimli entrance into their territory. There's issues between elves and dwarves. I think everyone knows that. So the elves actually were saying that Gimli can't come in. And at this point, Frodo kind of came to his defense, said, "Hey, Elrond likes this guy. He's one of our good friends. Blah 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 blah." And then finally, the elves like, "Okay, fine, you can come in, but you have to wear a blindfold as you go through our territory." They were not going to allow Gimli to go in without wearing a blindfold at this point. So then Gimli said he's not going to do that, this and that, and there was like a bit of talking, and then finally Aragorn jumped in at this point and said, "Okay, you know what? All of us will wear blindfolds." So the entire Fellowship had to actually wear blindfolds, including Legolas, who literally is a wood elf, but that was a bit funny. And they all wore blindfolds as they were going through. Finally, a bit later, the elves kind of realized, okay, they're being a bit ridiculous here, and they allowed Gimli to go through without having to put a blindfold on. So all of them took their blindfolds off at this point, and by the time they left, they were all friends. Gimli liked them, this and that. I just kind of liked how at this point in the book, like the Fellowship really kind of came together. It was like an elite unit who were together. I really liked how they stood up for Gimli, and I kind of felt bad for Gimli too, actually, his treatment, because he was a really good guy. Gimli actually was a very good member of the Fellowship, actually. He had some kind of quote, I forgot what it was, but he's like, whatever happens, I'll stay with the Fellowship forever. He said this before, so I was really happy that that guy who had so much commitment to the Fellowship, the other members showed commitment to him as well and stood with him when the elves were, being somewhat discriminatory against him. Moving on. The last difference I'm going to go over is the battle at Amon Hen. So, firstly, the big difference here between the movie and the book is that in the book, Boromir did not die in the Fellowship of the Ring. Boromir actually died in the second book, I believe in like the first or second page, something like that. And pretty much in the book, what happened was that when they got to Amon Hen, the Fellowship had a choice. Either they were going to go through Minas Tirith, or they were going to go another way. So what ended up happening was Frodo said he needs time to think about it, this and that. So Frodo went his way to think about things for like an hour. Boromir tried to take the ring from him. It didn't work. And then Boromir came back, and kind of people realized that Frodo's been gone a long time. And then Boromir kind of said, "Hey, I might have tried to take the ring from him." And then everyone kind of was like running, trying to find him. And everyone went in different directions. So Boromir, Merry, and Pippin went one way. Legolas, Gimli went another way. And then Aragorn with Sam went another way as well. What happened was that Boromir, Merry, and Pippin met up with all those Uruk-hai and orcs that actually attacked them. And in the book, Boromir actually fought them all by himself. And that's probably why he was actually blowing his horn. He was actually trying to alert, I guess, the other members of the Fellowship to come to his aid, or at least to give everybody warning that there's a problem. So when the rest of the team actually showed up to his location, Boromir actually slaughtered about 20 Uruk-hai and orcs, and Merry and Pippin were actually captured by the Uruk-hai. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas did not fight any orcs at that battle. Sam slipped away and went with Frodo, and they went their own way. And so these parts actually happen in the beginning of the second book, though, not in the Fellowship of the Ring book. They kind of added this in here. Again, they put a lot more action scenes in the book. But yeah, the Uruk-hai actually do say in the second book that they killed a great warrior, and that's because yeah, Boromir was a hell of a warrior. He took on all of them by himself. I was actually completely surprised by this because again, obviously I saw the movie first, so I thought that the whole team would come together, but it was actually just Boromir who took on all of them by himself. So it just goes to show you how great of a warrior he was, and how unfortunate his death was.